Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Reacts where we got ourselves an EP from an act named 1300 Big Swirl titled Re-Up on Love Again. And if we switch over to here, we've got ourselves the EP here on Spotify. It's also available on Apple Music as well as other digital streaming platforms. We're going to listen through each of these 6 tracks from start to finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Get that out up on the screen before we get into it for the EP, and we've got Slide In with Big Swirl and KOD KEL.
I got perky in my system for the liquor. We got all the drugs. Are you recording? Oh shit. KO. Yeah, I got perky in my system. Fuck that liquor. She was twerking on my dick. Slide in. I can't kick it. I've been on my pivot. Shoot like Thompson, not like Tristan. I got walk inside my liver. I problems gotta fix. I get high now. I can't feel it. 5 bands on my lenses. My vision, my decision. Oh shit, I'm that nigga. Hoes pissed. I got bitches. I just hit her. Now she limping. Don't start. Now you finish. Don't start. Now you finish. Whole side to the crib and open wide like a dentist. Love to slob. I can't kiss you. Come inside. Do the dishes. Fuck the squad. Call your nigga. Gotta slide. Come and get her. We got switches, vroom, vroom, that's my engine. 25 on my wrist, another 5 on my pen. We got all the drugs, know you little niggas can't ball with us. Please don't start with us, young niggas pull up and rob the club. Niggas keep playing, I'ma hurt someone. And nobody gon' say, yeah, I'ma burn one up. Know these bitches be lame, so I can't turn one up. And these niggas be lazy, I can't turn one up.
Fucking on the regular, I can't leave that freak alone. 44 timepiece, just to leave my time on. Come in the house, put it straight in your throat. Holding your how you gag me choke. Speeding in your ran, I'ma beat from the back end, pulling it out just to go back in.
Pulling
I
out just to
blast
back
off,
in.
get the lights. I cut the bitch off, took a flight. Can't do love, mine not right. Fucked up trust, fucked up life. Back when who got you right now sexually? Thinking about you now with another bitch next to me. Action. Thought it was a movie where we cut the scene. Ain't have shit, now they watch me on the TV screen. Many man wish there for me. I don't need more hoes, I need more money.
Yeah, I got perky in my system. Fuck that liquor. She was twerking on my dick. Slide in. I can't kick it. I've been on my pivot. Shoot like Thompson, not like Tristan. I got walk inside my liver. I problems gotta fix. I get high now. I can't feel it. 5 bands on my lenses. My vision, my decision. Oh shit, I'm that nigga.
And we just close. Nice switch up to build the drums here. Nice way to close it out there, having something a little bit different at the end. Because that was Slide In, the first track off of this Re-Up on Love Again EP from 1300 Big Swirl, as well as KOD KEL, the 2 of them featuring in this track titled Slide In. In each of these post-track sections, I'm going to provide sort of a mini song analysis of everything from lyrics and vocals all the way through to studio production, as well as an overall analysis of all the tracks at the end with any sort of applicable constructive critique, and then finally my general thoughts from a listener's perspective. But first of all, what do we think this track is about? Judging from the lyrics, I think it's mainly about having all the drugs they need, having all the women that they need, almost having too many women, and being in a position where even though they go back to them and like go between, they're thinking about one woman, what's there with another, they're also kind of focused on the fact that they don't have enough money or that they want more money. So I think effectively it's like they're in a point of stasis between the 2 vocal performances where they're kind of cognizant of what they have and what they're working with, but there's just more of a focus and sort of like desire for more there. And I wonder if that's going to be something that is going to be brought in other parts of this. I thought there was some interesting wordplay with the pull out and then go back in part there. There's also some like basketball references, I think, which is kind of cool. We have the use of the engine sounds as well well, which is kind of neat, talking about their engine and stuff. So I like that kind of bit of almost like an onomatopoeic approach to things. Sometimes people are very literal with the car engine noises and stuff like that as opposed to that, but like kind of having them on the mic doing that kind of is just a bit of variation to their actual performance. We got different textures for the vocals, you know, textures and timbres, and you can tell each sort of like vocalist or rapper apart, whether it is Big Swirl or KOD KEL, and I appreciate that. It's good to be able to distinguish them and figure out who's which, with again 1300 Big Swirl being the main artist and KOD KEL coming in for that later verse there, with Big Swirl kind of rolling things to a close at the end with that chorus. Ultimately the words come through clearly. It's nice to have a little bit of kind of playfulness at the start when they realize they're recording. It's an interesting intro to it, like they're having a conversation. You can kind of imagine them actually being on the mic as they go forward with it. And there seems to be a chemistry between the musicians involved, and it just seems like a really productive sort of collaboration between everyone involved. I think there's kind of a somber, balanced, emotional sort of like delivery and approach to the way we communicate there. There's variations of the rhythm and cadence with the vocal lines as well, which makes the rap parts compelling there in the verses. And not only do the words come through clearly, but there's also a nice use of melody, which I think works alongside a lot of the piano parts that we've got in the background with the harmony in the chorus, that kind of bass line that is repeated throughout with a mixture of different, again, drum parts, 808s and keys. I feel like at 2 minutes 47, we don't overstay our welcome in terms of like our first impression here. It's different perspectives on similar topics, and then we come back to a close with the main sort of purpose of the chorus, and then we're done. Like, we've got vocals almost immediately. We are very aware of not allowing the music to sit too long without a lead over top of it. Like, they're even singing that chorus part before they realize they're recording there. That's how much we're wanting to sort of get things stuck in there. And the vocal tuning that we have is great. I think that suits really neatly. It's a kind of a pretty texture alongside those really sort of like misty sounding keys with the reverb tails and the right hand in the mid to upper register. Like playing some interesting sort of like maybe extended chords there, not just relying on triads. And those keys are a really kind of delicate contrast to the 808s that we have, which are bombastic when they come and have like this push to them, which fits neatly alongside those drum elements there that kind of click and are almost sort of staccato-ish in retrospect. I like the fact that the snares aren't too intense there. It allows more of a kind of a push for those kicks and 808s when they come in. And the cymbals in the background almost kind of fill a similar purpose to the keys, where they decorate as opposed to push too much into. And I think it's kind of neat just to have the cymbals sometimes, just to have those hi-hats ticking away with a mixture of 8ths and 16ths there with some on-beats and syncopated outside of that. It's just a nice sense of dynamic range that's created with the lack of intensity in the low end. I think when you go to the end of the track and you have like that filtering of those, that sort of beat behind it there, it not only signals that it's the end of the song, but it also is a nice kind of into the bell curve where things kind of come down. I feel like if it had been loud the whole way and then kind of just stopped there, which would have been just a little bit blunt. And I feel like at the same time, a gentle fade out might have just been a little bit too predictable. But we kind of decorate this, maybe some sub leads going into higher registers, or maybe we're sort of having like a sub lead beside the keys. I'm not quite sure, but either way, it's quite lush sounding there harmonically. In fact, like around like that 55-second mark, there are no drums at all, or like any of that kind of bass element there. So effectively, it's just a nice sort of palette cleanse between parts of the track. But I think with the kind of pensive emotionality of the harmony that we have here, it provides a sense of introspection that maybe kind of adds a bit more sort of dimensionality to the subject matter that we're discussing here. It kind of adds a sense of, oh, but we're going to maybe go deeper than this or a different way there. And I appreciate that. I think that that's good to sort of set that up at the beginning there. I feel like if you're too blunt with the instrumental components behind a rap part, and if we simply focus on the rhythm, which is clearly an important element of it, given how well it works alongside the rapping, it just maybe makes the listener think that that's maybe all there is going to be. But the extensions in the minor key kind of soften what's not being too sad. It's almost like you're sitting there vibing with them as they work through things. And I dig that. I think it's quite mature what's being groovy with the rhythm section. But you know, the studio recording, mixing, mastering in general, again, the presence of the vocals is great. Your interesting filtering of the beat near the end. Great to have that kind of tuning to the vocals to make it almost like stylistically appropriate in regard to the other elements there with the precedent we've set. And it helps to get those melodies through cleanly. It's quite busy with the vocals and certain elements, but not too much because of a lack of resonant frequencies within the frequency spectrum. Things are quite well leveled and niched, and the music surrounds you in the headphones. It's really good. So stereo field is handled. Nice and loud, bit of pumping with the 808s. Bus compression limiting is handled. And yeah, we're off to a great start. Yep, all the boxes are ticked. Because we got Bend Over, track number 2, featuring 1300 Big Swirl and DMAN, Get It Gone.
Ba ba ba. Checking in. Da da da. Best never do it. Da da DJ. What year it is? Once again.
Yeah. Grinding hard, I can't quit. I can't quit, nigga. Just pop the done, who your bottle, now I'm lit. Bitch, I'm lit. Thick shit, man, I love a thick bitch. Thick bitch. Hit it quick, then I dip, now I'm gone. Bitch, I'm gone. Try don't never close, just hit my fucking phone. Hit my phone. I be by myself, bitch, I'm home alone. I'm by myself. You ain't no hoe you for a night, bitch, we grown. Bitch, we grown. Your ex stalking you, let broke ass nigga alone. Then where he at?
Down, baby, what you doing? Where you been? Crashing it, we fucking ain't no option. What you been doing? Elimination target, I miss Undertaker. How much would I spend if I spend the day with you? Complete the mission. How you dissing? If you say it twice in my face, at my place, fuck her face, then replace. How you doing? Fine. Crashing it, we fucking ain't no option. What you been over?
Grinding hard, I can't quit. I can't quit, nigga. Just pop the done, who your bottle, now I'm lit. Bitch, I'm lit. Thick shit, man, I love a thick bitch. Thick bitch. Hit it quick, then I dip, now I'm gone. Bitch, I'm gone. Try don't never close, just hit my fucking phone. Hit my phone. I be by myself, bitch, I'm home alone. I'm by myself. You ain't no hoe you for a night, bitch, we grown. Bitch, we grown. Your ex stalking you, let broke ass nigga alone. Then where he at?
Interesting to slow it down like that. So Bend Over, track number 2 with 1300 Big Swirl as well as DMAN Get It Gone. I kind of take this as maybe if Slyden is talking about thinking about the woman when you're like already with one, and Bend Over is talking about like hit it and then like splitting and getting out quick. Is it kind of insinuating that we're figuring out whether we want to have like a one night stand with someone, or like whether like are we figuring out which woman matters to us? I kind of get the impression maybe we're kind of, weighing up the way that we interact with these people that we want to get with. I think that's effectively it, because we know we can have like a one night stand with this person, but it's just kind of, maybe sort of like navigating the nuances there. Again, like different vocal styles there. For the most part, the words come through clearly. I had to take another sort of listen through it just to make sure I got most of it. It's interesting that like we have almost this kind of like legato-ish feel but staccato at the same time with the enunciation of certain words there. It's rhythmically really cool. I dig it there. It's kind of bouncy. And it's almost like we're sort of like non-committal to really kind of hanging on those words there, while like we're kind of dancing around what we're saying. I like how busy the start of it is though. It's like instantly kind of like stimulating. You're like, oh, this bit, haha, there's like laughing and then it's like the whispering of the big swirl and stuff like that. But like, you know, when they talk about grinding hard, I can't quit there, you know that basically with all the kind of bravado that we're establishing, we really are sort of addicted to the game there. We really want to do it with this person, but maybe even trying to protect ourselves or figure out whether it's worth the risk. There's a lot of different things being approached here. But ultimately, I feel like it's really stimulating for what you've got here. The words, again, do come clear for the most part. We've got different vocal textures and timers to sort of help separate between Big Swirl as well as DMAN Get It Gone. And it's just another sort of, I think, effective collaboration, especially for people who are like fans of this kind of genre of like modern rap and hip hop. It's also kind of interesting to, and if I'm not mistaken, I apologize if I am mistaken, I think that it's interesting for Big Swirl to have less of a feature in this one. I could still be getting used to the different vocal sound, like, I could just be getting used to the different voices, but I think DMAN maybe is more sort of like, he has more features on this one, like he has more time on the mic, so with this being 1300 Big Swirl's album, just allowing DMAN to have more time is kind of dope. Like he's not afraid to sort of like hand over the mic to someone to let them have their kind of time in the sun. I think the vocal parts, the chops in the background there, the lady ones are kind of nice as well. They're very sort of like fragrant, and amongst a lot of those other components, they're there with the kind of alternate percussion and such. Harmonize neatly and provide a bit of coloration alongside more of the rhythmic leanings of the main vocals throughout the track. But yeah, ultimately quite charismatic, and at 1 minute 43, the track is really short. It's outside the 2 to 4 minute sweet spot, but at the same time I don't feel like it's underdeveloped, even though we had just enough to kind of figure out what was going on. I think there's a lot of kind of space in this, primarily because we aren't predominantly trying to make, again, like a push forward with the percussion. There are beats, you know, there are sort of like little kind of laserish kind of sounds and stuff. But at the start, we simply have the strings there or the brass there, and it's very quiet, and it's allowing us sort of time to hear the different vocal parts, including the whispering and stuff like that with the sub layers and layers, and sort of appreciate and get used to that effect. You do have the 808 come in there, which is relatively like subdued there. I kind of dig the way it presents itself there. It's kind of at the lower part of its range, but where it's heavy enough that it'll bounce in a car, but not too low that it becomes a bit kind of muted. And you've got that clicky kind of snare, such as the same sort of similar one we had in Slide In. So we're establishing a sense of like textural continuity there. It was just kind of fun to have the little kind of lasery synth sounds there as an addition to the percussion there at the end there with those quarters, eighths and sixteenths. To be fair as well, at the end we do slow down that theme and everything kind of goes down. There was an interesting sort of twist there. I've heard it before in tracks, and it's always a kind of, oh, we want to sort of reinvent the theme and maybe seem like we're coming down towards something. It's usually kind of a transitional device between tracks, so I wonder if that's going to be relevant in terms of Re-Up on Love Again track number 3. But if you're unsure of how to further a narrative there, you can just switch up the beat, present it in a different way, and make it interesting again. But yeah, ultimately, aside from the strings in the background there, you have the bass, the drums there, and the other sort of synth FX textures, and that's really all you need in a short track like this. You don't need to overcomplicate things. Again, the lowering of the tempo and switching of the key there at the end is a nice sort of fade up, and it ultimately lets you know that things are coming to a close. Thematically, it's like major 7th or extended, but like it doesn't sound like a super upbeat or happy track, and I think that's part of the strength of having extended chords, is that they offer a sense of emotional nuance there that lets you know, hey, even though we're kind of upbeat about this and we feel like good about ourselves there's a little bit of kind of stuff going on in the background to sort of make us double check things or sort of feel things out or be a bit more sort of introspective. And I think the kind of way that the woman is singing in the background there is almost like a kind of a voice in the back of your head alongside what we're discussing on the microphone. It's just an interesting mood that develops within this piece with the kind of like 2-note progression in the background, oscillates and reverberates throughout. Studio recording, mixing and mastering though, similar commentary, positive in terms of the way that the vocals are approached within this. They've got a nice sort of shimmer and sheen to it with the EQ in there, the compression, etc. there. Nice use of filtering to get the different vocal takes, the whispered, like spoken and kind of rap parts at the start, nice and clean. It's cool to have the type of, again, drum sounds that we had there. I like some of those samples that we used there. They were just kind of interesting, especially with like little synthy kind of beeps at the end. And yeah, honestly, like it's nice and short and sweet and does overstay its welcome. Nice and loud, 2 for 2. Re-Up on Love Again with a 1300 Big Swirl and DMAN Get It Gone. Let's go.
Hey, check. This the greatest thing. About the time I'm coming, bitch, I can't forget that. I'm coming, memory. Thinking about the time I lost that bitch, I can't forget that. Money making money memories. Pass me that. Moving making money memories. I get my own. Thinking about the time I lost a bitch, I can't forget that. Moving, making money memories. I spent it all just to beat the court. I could've broke the rim. I never judged though. Ran out of love, bitch. Ran out of drugs. So re-up on love again, and love again, and love again, and love again. Re-up on love again, and love again, and love again, and love again.
You fuck up one time, I forgive you, better not do it again. Lost it, keep coming back to back, I still find a way to win. Can't trust these bitches, if you fucked up, they a fucking friend. I'd rather hit the truck, get money in my back end. Fuck up more than one time, you can't come back over here again. I don't need nobody around me if they don't wanna see me win. Losses after losses, I just wanna win. Can't believe the judge gave these a 10, they ain't wanna see me win.
Thinking about the time I lost a bitch, I can't forget that. Moving, making money memories. I spent it all just to beat the court, I could've broke the rim. I never judged though. Ran out of love, bitch, ran out of drugs. So re-up on love again, and love again, and love again, and love again. Re-up on love again, and love again, and love again, and love again.
we are doing the fade out in this one. Cool. I also think this track might have been a bit louder than the other one potentially. I could be tripping though. I'm not sure. There might be some different sort of like levels in terms of the loudness of things. Yeah, that can suit depending on the vibe we're going for. Sometimes having a quieter track is good because it's more low key. Just want like a kind of a smaller feel to it. But that was Re-Up on Love Again with 1300 Big Swole and DMAN Get It Gone. I feel like that was an interesting track primarily because it seems like we're discussing, again, running out of drugs, the person hurting us, kind of maybe going back to love again but struggling because we can't trust this person. And with a lot of the EP so far, we've more so discussed being able to get with other people but this person being on our mind there, figuring out whether it's going to be like a one night stand or something more extended there. And predominantly it seems to have been more to the former, but now I think we're kind of stuck with this person. We're coming down and we're kind of realizing the situation we're in there. And we're trying to set boundaries and maybe even saying we're a bit off on our own, but it's just a difficult kind of conversation we're having between the different vocalists involved there. And I kind of think that's an interesting development there thematically through this piece. I like the color of the different vocal melodies that we have, especially in the hook section, how kind of bouncy they are and how neatly they work alongside some of those more colorful instrumental layers. I think as well, there generally the words, the cadence and rhythm of the different sort of rap sections and bars is really solid. There was no point where I was disengaged or uninterested in what we were trying to sort of communicate here. I feel like I like this one the best out of the tracks so far. I kind of dig, again, like the kind of bouncy, kind of bow, 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 those notes in the background and how the vocals kind of work off of those and maybe call and respond with those as well there. That kind of like feed off each other and find space within the arrangement in a way that builds rather than takes away from it. And we repeat the hook line of Re-Up on Love Again in a way to kind of get it stuck in the listener's head. And I know that seems like it should be a given, but it's really not. Sometimes people will have the EP name and they'll have the track name, but they won't necessarily even mention it that much again. And understanding the way to phrase a line in a way which isn't cheesy or sort of like, like cliched, it is an art. And I feel like we handle it well here. It's good. We're not screaming it at the person. We're allowing it to have context to everything else that's included. And like the vocals are really well balanced as well, regardless of whether we have more like straightforward kind of clean takes or we have the stylized kind of tuned parts there. Ultimately, it's just really good. So I appreciate the variety there vocally in terms of how we approach things and how we kind of round it out there lyrically, especially with the fade out at the end where we kind of say Re-Up on Love Again, like things are coming to a close for Act 2. Especially when we talk about losing someone again, so you can tell they've kind of gone through the loss of someone and they don't necessarily want to have to go through that again. So when someone hurts them, they're struggling with that. Like not an extent where they're complaining about it, but it's just more you can tell they're feeling it, What I dig about this track in terms of the structure of it, outside of there being the verses and choruses and how we sort of like go between vocalists and kind of like keep things compelling, it's also that we have a lack of percussion for a bit and we simply allow those synth keys, those kind of portamento takes with like the kind of filtered vocals as well, kind of decorating and dancing around. You have them perpetuating a pattern or sort of thing that you can recognize, and we aren't too sort of like focused on having things come in or crescendoing immediately. And you have other sort of like sung takes as like unison notes there as well. We staircase, but not in a way that's overdone. When you have the kicks come in there with the extra bass elements and the cymbals there around the 30-second mark there, you've kind of gotten used to things enough that the drums feel like a necessary quotient there. And so like when they continue through the piece, you're like, oh, now we have a different vocalist here. Now we're doing something kind of fun. And then before we get too used to that, we switch up the vocal takes, have something else different that comes in, and we're not staying on anything for too long. It never becomes uninteresting. And like around that like 1:50 mark there where things kind of come down a little bit, and you can tell that the bell curve's starting to go down a little bit more in terms of the intensity of the piece. With that fade out, and again, the little clicks and stuff like that, and extra cymbals, kicks, and just interesting sort of percussive notes with a repeated sort of like instrumental motif with the basses and synths in the background there. You feel like you've had your journey and you've enjoyed it. It's an extended outro fade out though. We go for like about 20 seconds, 25 seconds through that, which is a huge contrast to the previous tracks. Every single song to be fair, has had a different ending, and I like that. I think that we're cognizant of the fact that if we have the same finish each time, it becomes predictable, therefore less interesting. So we're making the most of the longer form factor by exploring the options. Thematically though, again with the bow, 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 just an interesting kind of like 3-note pattern there that kind of repeats itself throughout there. It's like a minor orient to the key signature thematically, but again, not to a point that it's too sort of depressing sounding. Like it illustrates or indicates that we're struggling with something, but we're still kind of colorful and sort of like energetic with some of the vocal parts as well to kind of balance it out and not make it too depressing. It's got a great sort of thump and buzz to it there. The vocals are into it and they're clearly engaged with what they're trying to accomplish. And so ultimately you just feel at the end there that even though you can tell there's a struggle going on, they're not too overwhelmed by it. They're just kind of figuring their way out. Studio recording, mixing and mastering, again, just great use of the filter takes at start, as well as like those kind of tuned unison notes and everything like that. The production in general, the effects change on the vocals across the CP has been very good. And I think that in general, this also the leveling the track in terms of not only the sort of like the side chaining some of those kicks and bass elements, but also the lack of resonant frequencies and the way the music surrounds you in the headphones is great as well. It's a very sort of like, it's an effective experience. Nice and loud, but a pumping bass compression limiting is handled there, and ultimately, yeah, I like the way that it has room to breathe that isn't too choked in terms of the compression limiting, but it's still, you know, effectively commercial grade. Gotta Get It, track number 4, 1300 Big Swirl, as well as DMAN, Get It Gone.
I'm cutting the food. Yeah. Da 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 DJ. Big swirl. Ba ba ba. I wanna. Yeah. Hey. I need it's the life needed. I never need it. Every moment. If I told you, then I meant it. I don't need credit. Seen so many crimes, I just like cash flow. How you stop your love? I just breathe motion, and I can do it if you paying. I don't mind hard work. Hard times, I walk with the guys. I don't need, I get. I can fuck you better than. I can fuck you better than. I know I want. I needed you. I never needed you. We bought, we gotta get it. We bought, we gotta get it.
Gotta get the money, cause I came from nothing. Struggling bad, nobody gave me nothing. 101, you'll never hear me talking about on my daddy's son. I wanna give my heart, but I can't trust it. I can never leave the trap, I'm working the door. Give me money, gotta put in overtime. I ain't get no sleep at night, I overgrind. I get sleep when the sun rises. I can't trust you, give me a hard time. I know you love me, I see your
times. I walk with the guys. I don't need, I get. I can fuck you better than. I can fuck you better than. I know I want. I needed you. I never needed you. We bought, we gotta get it. We bought, we gotta get it. Do you love me? Do you love me now? I'ma keep on fucking with you, baby. Give you all I got. I'ma give you missions. Can you possible? Give you cute girl. Can you possible? It's the last time. Swear to God, it's the last shot. I keep fucking with you, baby. Give you all I got. If you want that loving, let that love in. That's not hotel, baby. Just keep loving and loving and loving. Baby, what you?
All right, okay, I get this. Yeah, I'm starting to get this. EP now. Okay, cool. So that's Gotta Get It with 1300 Big Swirl as well as DMAN, Get It Gone. I think this track is more sort of discussing how, I think from DMAN, Get It Gone's perspective, they're discussing what they've needed to do in order to be able to get to a position where they can sort of like function and sort of find the success that they have, all the work they put in, sleeping when the sun rises, etc. Not really getting given much when they started up, or maybe like when they were younger or something like that. So they've had to put in a lot of work to be able to get to where they are. And with 1300 Big Swirl, it's interesting that I like that what I want. That kind of, the phrasing there is just catchy. It's kind of a nice sort of vocal kind of like rhythm and meter there that kind of makes it almost sound sort of instrumental in a sense. And that rhythmic phrasing is repeated across the chorus parts in a way that kind of gets it stuck in your head. But like the words adjust. The do you love me, the do you not, like the earnestness of the way we communicate there, it issues a sense of authenticity. And I kind of, it's interesting that like I can fuck you better than is like saying, look, this is what I can offer you in addition to other things, you know, like can we have this? But like to go for the L word effectively and to kind of be more sort of like straightforward with it is kind of neat as well, because up until this point we've kind of been figuring out what we think of this person, and especially after they might have heard us and we're like, no, we do want this person. Ultimately, I just think that this is just an interesting sort of like next step in the direction for this EP, and it's just great to have like an overarching kind of journey that we're going through. You don't always get that. Yeah, with different perspectives kind of intertwining into something quite cohesive and sort of like understandable. You have a piece here where it's, again, there's more color in terms of the vocal melodies and some of the harmonies and the way things intersect and intertwine and sort of like coalesce with each other, and it's very pleasant to listen to for the most part. There's some heavily sort of like tuned parts there, which kind of, that kind of buzz and sort of like have a portamento kind of smoothness to it there, which is neat, and it contrasts with some of the other more straightforward elements. There's also some parts which are less tuned, which I think was a sensible decision, because it kind of makes it sound like a bit more sort of real, if that makes sense. And just the different ways that we approach our vocal production as well as the way we communicate, really good. You know, a Big Swirl and DMAN Get It Gone being like very kind of like sort of easy to follow at this point in time with the familiarity we grow over top. Yeah, no, honestly, enough variety through it to get through 2 minutes 22. It's still quite a short track. I mean, all of these tracks are quite short. Either they're just within the 2-4 minute sweet spot or they're just below it, and I think that that's fine. We illustrate what we discuss or what we want to discuss very sort of like neatly for the most part throughout it, and we don't overstay our welcome. You have these kind of lady sort of like vocal parts there singing some really pretty harmonies at the beginning with the ... there with the guy, and it's just instantly like, oh, what world have we entered into now? And we have that really clean sounding like the guitar sort of picked parts alongside the producer tag there, and we just have all these parts, different vocals going around the stereo field there in individual positions. I haven't really spoken about the individual positioning of things yet, but the way they sort of bounce around is just, it grows neatly without being too literal to the center. And as we have those vocal runs and guitars go in the background alongside the 808s, those kicks and drums that come in there, it's just staircase neatly again. There's a distortion to the 808s as well, which makes them sound kind of visceral, but I think it's simply because they're pushed as opposed to trying to be too aggressive. And like the claps and the other sort of cymbal hits and everything like that, like correlate neatly to it. And you just get all of these individual parts culminate into a piece which feels like a natural sort of progression of what we had beforehand within the EP. We talk about how we like cash flow and everything like that. I just think we're kind of figuring everything out as we record this EP. I think this is quite an important EP for 1300 Big Swirl as well as everyone else involved. I kind of dig when people go through their journeys through their music. And with the Do You Love Me part at the end, just kind of fading out into the ether, it's kind of like you're waiting for the response of the person. So ultimately, structurally quite effective. Instrumentally, the parts go together quite neatly. We're very comfortable with what we're putting together at this point. No sort of issues in terms of the performance stuff, quite tight across the 4 tracks so far. And aesthetically, it's minor leaning because I think, again, we're not really sure if this person does love us back there. And we're sort of trying to front a little bit, acting like we'll be able to cope with it. But you can tell there's struggle. There's a bit of vocal fry to some of the vocal parts as well. Like, it's difficult for us to kind of maybe accept the reality that this person doesn't feel about us the same way that we feel about them. So I think, you know, the chord progression makes sense, kind of the way it loops and repeats there. It's not overcomplicated. The studio recording, mixing and mastering, again, I like the way that things are panned within the stereo field there, as I mentioned at the start with the different vocal takes and stuff like that. There's no weird resonant frequencies in the frequency spectrum. You know, music surrounds you in the headphones. Leveling in general is very good. The vocal takes sound nice and balanced and not overproduced. And it's great to have more singing in this one there. In a way that kind of matches stylistically or like at least production-wise with the rest of the elements within this EP. A nice and loud bit of pumping from the sidechaining of the bass and stuff. Bass compressor limiting is handled. Ultimately, yeah, it's great. We're continuing to have a good time with this. Because we've got track 5, Where Would I Go, with 1300 Big Swirl, as well as Natasha writes.
Where would I go? Big, hey. Welcome to the stage. Are you not entertained? Where would I go? Where would I be without your love here next to me? You're the reason I understand. Be forever
Interesting panning of the vocals there.
Standing on 10 toes down. Never gonna let you down. I'll be here. Standing on
Turn shit up on scope.
DJ, pop big swirl, bitch.
Okay, all right. Where would I go? Track number 5 with Big Swirl as well as Natasha Writes. I think that this track worked well because it has the perspective of the woman that they're discussing things with. I think that was a sensible idea at this point. We'd had a lot of 1300 Big Swirl's perspective from this to have Natasha kind of go, hey, look, you know, if we love each other, I'm going to be there to sort of help you through it and be your partner and sort of like pick you up and down, help you smile, etc. It's just reassuring at the stage to kind of hear that we've got that for 1300 Big Swirl as they kind of figure out what they're wanting to do here. Kind of establish an anchor point or sort of a grounding for they're kind of like the ambiguity that they're feeling, all these different kind of conflicting emotions and sort of past experiences, and kind of focused on sort of like self-protection in terms of focusing on the grind, but then also going, actually, no, I do really feel these things for this person. So ultimately, smart move is the second to last track here with Ungrateful. I don't know where we're going with that, but either way, I think effectively here you've got this kind of earnest performance there from Big Swirl across the chorus part there, and it takes its time there, and it gives Natasha a platform for themselves to just, because they sing really neatly. Their vocal technique is really solid. I appreciate especially the last part where we have those kind of stacked harmonies there as a call and response to the vocals that go backwards and forwards. I think that we have a more sort of straightforward sort of rapped kind of melodic rapped kind of part in their verse section, of course, there, but they show their range by being able to communicate in different ways a bit later on there. And I think that we could have just had the verse part, but it kind of adds a bit of extra kind of sparkle to it in order for us to have that outro bit there. So I'm really happy with that. But yeah, I think having Natasha having the platform here was tight. And so yeah, ultimately, yeah, nicely sort of stacked out at 206. Another example of 1300 Big Swirl letting someone else kind of have their time in the sun, which is good. Chorus verse chorus, sort of like sung outro part there. Interesting, different ending to what we've had prior. And we actually have that kind of backwards and forwards vocal part with Big Swirl's part as well. Let's start with the DJ part there, which is interesting. And it's very kind of like slow and almost kind of like humble in its approach there. We have these kind of portamento kind of synths going around the background and going between these two main notes. The bass being sort of more prominent there and allowing it to sit. The kind of pump of things occasionally eliciting a slow tempo. And like, wow, wow, wow. The melody in the background being rather subtle in comparison to the vocals as a sub-layer. Having the hi-hats in that verse section was a nice sort of way to lift that up and add a bit of sort of structural diversity to the piece. With a mixture of these kind of chirpy kind of like hi-hats as well as triplet sixteenths and stuff like that being an interesting sort of addition as well. I think that was also something that was added to that second chorus there, that additional element of like the hi-hats and stuff, which was just a nice way to sort of like step ladder that before the outro. To simply have some of those plucks and sort of like more sort of portamento low-key synth elements be around with Natasha having their time and with the vocal melodies and harmonies. It was just cool to kind of like give and take with different combinations. No, to be fair, I've just realized I've got to listen back to it, and I do think we do have some like hi-hats in that first chorus as well with Big 1300 Big Swirl, but still just like adjusting the presence of those is good. And also adjusting the way that we kind of feature those kicks as well, little kind of changes to the grooves on the kit is important as well. They're just so that things don't become too constant despite the adjustments we have through the piece outside of that. Thematically, it's a minor leaning piece there, but it's almost like in stasis at the same time. It's with the extensions, it adds a bit of nuance there, and I think ultimately it's more like we'll get through the struggles that we're kind of like dealing with. Natasha will help 1300 Big Swirl get through that. And there's this kind of kinsmanship and this sort of like gentle kind of care and caress that emanates throughout the combination of elements with this that's really positive. So I feel like the chord choice there with the emotional nuance there with the progressions and the way it kind of goes between those two was a sensible decision. Studio recording, mixing and mastering here. I do like the vast majority of it. I think the vocal takes for the most part are presented well. Natasha comes through cleanly. there with the rapped and then the sung takes there. I'm wondering if the amount of tuning we had there, given that they can sing, actually necessarily helped the outro part. Because I feel like we could have potentially have gotten away with less tuning on those harmonies to really sort of like help them shine. There was just some light stepping that was going on in those last few parts there, but otherwise I think it was really good. And it's more a compliment, I suppose, to Natasha Wrights than anything. Ultimately though, the mixing, leveling, the way the automation of panning works for some of those vocal takes was really cool. Nice and loud, bit of pumping, bus compression, and limiting is handled, and it's just great to have another featured artist in this in a way that makes sense. We got Ungrateful, track number 6, with Big Swirl as well as DMAN Get It Gone. What are we gonna have for this last track on the EP?
I know I fucked up, sorry, I ain't mean to hurt you, baby. I know you're a little real, so I hate the fact I was being ungrateful, baby. Tryna be a player for the run and play myself, now I'm out here looking crazy. What the fuck I'm supposed to do if I lose you? I'm a lover boy, girl, you know I need you. Been cashing out since the first day I met you. I seduce you with the money, you know I'm trapping too.
Picture perfect moment. I won't revenge your love. Return back to the mode. I'm on. We gone. I done been posted. No trophies. Shook relationships. Done had a few. How'd you know I had a plan to run it up? All the lost mode. Time.
There's some I can't get back. No, I fucked up. There's some I can't take back. I don't wanna waste your time. Baby girl, let me fix that. I know I fucked up. Sorry, I ain't mean to hurt you, baby. I know you're a little real, so I hate the fact I was being ungrateful, baby. Tryna be a player for the run and play myself, now I'm out here looking crazy. What the fuck I'm supposed to do if I lose you? I'm a lover boy, girl, you know I need you. Been cashing out since the first day I met you. I seduce you with the money, you know I'm trapping too.
Picture perfect moment. I won't revenge your love. Return back to the mode. I'm on. We gone.
Oh, key change. Yeah, so I think that was cool. I think that was a cool track. I'm going to make a very sort of gentle comment on the producer tags here. I feel like you could have potentially have finished the track without the producer tag at the end. It's just because if we're at this point of the EP, we're familiar with the fact that this is Big Swirl, the 1300 Big Swirls EP. I understand the idea of it being a singles economy in the sense that like people are listening to one track at a time, maybe, and that. But then if we've got this kind of album and it's sort of like a chronological, like a journey from 1 to 6 there, I feel like we could have just potentially had the producer track tag at the start and then kind of had it just kind of finish without it. But it's okay. It's all good. I understand at the same time it's important these days to make sure people like recognize your work and that we put the time into the beats as well. So that's cool. Ultimately, though, I think that Ungrateful is an interesting track to finish the EP with because where would I go? It kind of, you know, that's about asking where would we go without this person? Like, how would we cope if they left? Ungrateful is maybe the response to where would I go? Natasha Wrights parts where we sort of level with the woman we're talking to. We go, yeah, no, I realize how much of a piece of work I was being when I made those mistakes and how I was ungrateful for you. And I think effectively as a way of closing, maybe that is the happy ending we're looking for because we realize how much we mucked up because of the journey we had from, you know, not being fully sort of like committal to really wanting this person in our life. I think that's kind of the direction we're going with it. I'm not quite sure, but regardless, I think that's simply me trying to sort of establish a connection because I can understand the first 5 and just trying to sort of finish on this one. But ultimately, I think that there's a lot of really cool stuff going on in terms of like the vocal chops that we have there from the woman as well as like the spoken part at the end there. We also, again, we have like the producer tags at the start there. We have a 1300 Big Swirl as well as DMAN Get It Gone coming in, and they have their own sort of like, we're familiar with their vocal textures and timers at this point, so they're unmissable there. I like the harmonies and the sort of effects we have on some of those vocals from Big Swirl there and their sort of chorus sections there. The way that the music also kind of stops and you really sort of focus on their take before it comes back in with the rest of the instrumental arrangement is really cool. And like there are some kind of like harmonic, kind of shimmery, kind of like distorted or kind of like interesting sort of effects that are going on there that I'm going to think about for the rest of the day. But there's also these heavy reverb tails in certain parts there that make it seem extremely atmospheric there, and like we're in an expanse within our own head, sort of being quite introspective within our conversation. But I think there, that kind of moodiness there sort of exacerbates a lot of what we understand about the track here and lets us know we really do kind of regret the decisions we've made when we've taken this person for granted. And like the color of it with the extensions of the harmonies and the way they arpeggiate, as well as the more sort of low-key attitude to the way that we communicate for the listener, it sort of incentivizes a feeling of them understanding the decisions they made and what the consequences that have occurred. It's interesting we talk about revenge though. I'm not necessarily sure what we're wanting revenge for there, but or maybe we're ungrateful, or maybe we're annoyed because someone else has been ungrateful towards us. I'm not sure, but and we have like the vocals from the lady coming in certain parts, such as around the 50-second mark there, and it's interesting as well to kind of have that. I think basically to get the full sort of gist of this track, you probably need a few tracks to understand all the nuances. I mean, it's like 1 minute 50, it's such a short track, it's outside of the 2 to 4 minute sweet spot, but it also doesn't overstay its welcome to us, you know what I mean? You get all these different sort of perspectives from Big Swirl as well as DMAN Get It Gone, and you feel like it's well sort of like set up. But like with those kind of glows from like the guitar, natural harmonics there, the way you got the kind of chirpy cymbals and kicks and snares coming occasionally alongside the sort of key or synth arpeggios I mentioned earlier there, it's very lush. But then you have like filtered vocals in other parts where it takes the intensity down quite a bit, and I feel like this is one of the more sort of dynamically varied tracks across the EP. Not just from like a production perspective, but also from like a compositional performance-based one. Yeah, that is distortion with the harmonies there, I think at that 1 minute 30 mark with the vocals as well, which is kind of cool. It's also interesting to have like the key change at the end there. That was kind of an unexpected twist there. It does kind of become a bit sort of sleepy sounding, almost like maybe we come to a close with the person understanding the mistakes we made. And like we kind of close out the track with kind of like the vinyl shimmers and like little crackles and stuff like that. That story has come to an end with the producer tag at the end there, letting you know, hey, maybe things worked out or maybe they didn't. There's like an ambiguity there potentially. Again, I didn't need to listen back to it again, but yeah, the use of like the wow, kind of like bringing the track back before that sort of key signature change there, the dips and like rises of things, the kind of turntable starting up again, like there's a lot of sort of like sub layers that are additional to the main sort of components you can hear easily, and there's a sense of dimensionality to the composition here, which I feel does finish the EP quite nicely. Again, it's like a culmination of all the things I've learned across this journey up until now. But I think, yeah, the filtering of those vocals in the background is just a wonderful sort of melodic element that adds this kind of expanse to the piece there. And thematically, it's minor leaning because I think it makes sense when we consider that we're not feeling great about the concept of being ungrateful or how ungrateful others are. You effectively get to a stage where it doesn't, you feel for them. You can sort of feel sympathetic to a certain extent. And like after track 5, you kind of hope that things will work out between them, even if you're not sure if they will. Maybe it's just a melancholic situation where we're discussing, struggling to make things work with this person. But only, without discussing the album as a whole, which I'll do in a moment here, it's just effectively a track which I think suits the minor tone of the chord progressions that you're going between those main two sort of like chords there. It's not overcomplicated in that regard. There's just a lot of individual kind of parts which are kind of like intermingling and sort of coming in one after one, they're the other, or kind of like are interconnected. There's just a lot of little kind of moving parts, if that makes sense. But the studio recording, mixing, mastering in general, with like the processing of those kind of vocal takes in the background, and as well as the main sort of parts there, the drums, the bass, the keys, the little sort of shimmers and the reverb stops and the key. Like there's a lot of cool stuff happening from post-production perspective that's quite well leveled within the stereo field as well as the frequency spectrum with no weird resonant frequencies there. Interesting use of sort of like distortion and sort of like other effects in the vocals and some of those chorus elements there, with a more raw take for DMAN Get It Gone's parts, which I think sounds appropriate and helps to sort of contrast it. And again, nice and loud, bit of pumping, bus compression, limiting is handled. Again, just a really sort of clean sweep to the key change at the end. We're going to talk about these tracks more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this EP from an act named 1300 Big Swirl, titled Re-Up on Love Again. In this section, I'm going to provide an overall EP analysis of everything from lyrics and vocals all the way through the studio production, as well as any applicable constructive critique, and then finally, my general thoughts from a listener's perspective. Before we go any further, what do we think this EP is about? I think this EP is about someone looking at their life, what they value, what they've been working through with the mixture of the money and the woman that they get with and the drugs and like the music and the trials and tribulations they've had coming up, whether it's 1300 Big Swole discussing it, or KOD KEL or DMAN Get It Gone, or even NATASHA. Like these different characters come in and they interact and they provide their sort of tale of it from the perspective of someone struggling with the love that they feel for someone despite getting hurt, despite the trials and tribulations, maybe wanting to sort of like decide between a one-night stand or like something more sort of like heavy in terms of commitment. We realize that we do really need this person, and eventually we get NATASHA Wrights coming in with their voice of the lady, kind of giving their perspective on it, how they do want to care for this person, take care of them and be like an equal partner to them. And at the end, I think when Ungrateful, we're kind of talking about how much we really know we mucked up because of how much this person loves us, and how we're kind of opening up to the kind of betrayal that we've caused and how we want to sort of do better. I just feel there's more nuance to that last track though, which I'd need again with multiple listens, but ultimately I feel like it's a compelling journey that you go through with these tracks. Now, I'm not going to provide per track sort of like comments because I've already had little mini song analyses for each song within the EP earlier on in this review, but I think overall, in terms of the vocal performances across the board, 1300 Big Swole does a fantastic job with any of the rapping or the singing or the whispering or the sonic, like the various ways that we vocalize and express ourselves. We come across as quite authentic there. We have a sense of charisma about our performance there. The words come clearly. The words come through clearly for the most part. We don't stumble over ourselves. We've got polish on the microphone, and it's very sort of pleasant and listen. I feel like it's an effective vocal performance. The features from musicians such as KOD KEL as well as DMAN Get It Gone and NATASHA Wrights also come through neatly, with KOD KEL and DMAN Get It Gone being sort of more sort of like rapping kind of focus. There were maybe some sort of melodic parts, but ultimately they provide a nice sort of vocal contrast in terms of texture and timbre to 1300 Big Swole. They either have a more sort of dominant part, maybe covering some of the hooks such as Bend Over, or they've got features in other tracks as well in the verse sections there, which are different perspectives to 1300 Big Swole. And I appreciate that we kind of bounce between, we have kind of conversations between each. There's a sense of chemistry between the members that are involved in this for the most part, and in general they seem like they fit the bill really neatly. I think NATASHA Wrights with their sort of like rapped verse with some melodic kind of rapping, as well as the sung parts near the end of the track, is just a nice sort of palate cleanse from a lot of the rapping that you have earlier on in the EP. It's nice to have some really beautiful melodies and harmonies there, and I like in general the way that is. It's just good to have the woman's perspective on it after when talking about this person for most of the EP. So I think effectively when we've got the vocal tenet covered, when the words coming through clearly, when we are additive in terms of our features and the collaborations in general are effective, we've just got things sorted on the microphone there. And I think in general, again, the expressions seem relatively, like we're not overdoing things, we're not exaggerating things, but we're also not taking ourselves too seriously. But we're also clearly putting in effort and we're clearly engaged in what we're trying to accomplish and sort of like tell the listener, which, given the vocals are the main sort of focal point and lead for this EP across the board, is incredibly important. So outside of the vocal parts, we've effectively got tracks there which are between 1.5 to 3 minutes, and they're nice and short. They're short and sweet, a couple of verses, or maybe one or two verses, even one verse. You've got a couple of choruses there. And then the outros typically change between the tracks, but I just think effectively the intros usually have sort of spoken parts or vocal parts or like vocal chops there. Lots of different interesting sort of lead and sub-lead elements there, whispers, producer tags, etc. You've got tracks that have all those interesting things at the start, and then you come into the main sort of crux, whether it's a mixture of basses, there's some strings there's some keys, synth leads, etc. You've just got fundamentally important sub and main elements there instrumentally that help you go between those different verse and chorus sections. There aren't massive grand movements between tracks, so to be fair, Ungrateful has a lot of interesting kind of pushes and pulls and sort of twists in terms of the way that it goes between the different verses and choruses there. There's quite a bit going on with that one, especially in terms of the dynamic range of the piece and stuff like that. You do also have some interesting kind of like key changes where things kind of slow down in certain elements there, such as I think Bend Over. There are key changes at the end of the track, such as Ungrateful, or Where Would I Go, for example. I think one of those two was the key change one. I think it was Ungrateful, to be fair. Some tracks simply filter themselves out. Others, such as Re-Up on Love Again, have like an extended sort of fade out outro there where you kind of hear things going quieter over time, and there's a natural kind of into the bell curve there in terms of intensity. but there's never a song where you're like, why did we do that, or did that go into that there? It was very smooth listening for the most part there, despite how kind of bouncy some of those basses, those 808s were, because they were punchy. And we had different sounding 808s as well. It wasn't just the same tone and texture the entire time. We also had a mixture of interesting like quarter, eighth, and 16th note patterns on the cymbals there, as well as some of the chirp guns, kind of like those fast ones that we have there. A mixture of sort of like different kind of tapped and clicks there for like a snare pattern there, not trying to be too sort of thick with the snare parts there. And sometimes we had them filtered to be less intense. Sometimes we didn't have anything at all apart from cymbals. Sometimes we just didn't have drums and allowed things to float there. We might have had like a pad or something in the low end there to allow things to kind of simmer there. And then we have the bounciness come in at the halfway point to kind of add more of a sense of flow and sort of like perspective to it. We have some guitar takes as well, some sort of really beautiful kind of steel string parts there, as well as some natural harmonics and others there to shimmer and shine above. We have some key elements there that decorate the right hand really neatly to not sort of cause too many issues to the left hand there, and we play these extended chords in a lot of tracks to add a sense of emotional sophistication and nuance to it, so it's not too kind of blunt either way due to a lack of triads. And I think the vocal chops that we have in some tracks there, outside of the main vocal performances, add a further sense of harmony and kind of like dimensionality of the piece through this, especially with some of them being kind of like reverb and very kind of soaked and like effects that kind of extend the length of those notes. It's just really pretty sounding and other elements there. Some are just very sort of like simple as well with the boom, boom, boom. And these bass lines, they typically have 2 or 3 chords there and they repeat throughout. These tracks aren't huge in terms of the way they switch up their chord progressions or bass lines there. They have one kind of main beat or concept that you adjust the vocals over with the different musicians. And I think that's the strength of having these being all sort of like feature tracks with another vocalist going alongside 1300 Big Swirl, is that you have enough lead variety there to be able to have the track behind it be compelling enough as like a support. I think even when you've got like, and I think as a final note in terms of the extra instrumental parts there, where would I go? You've got those rap parts from Natasha, but you've got that kind of re-synth up in the top end there, or some sort of like portamento synth dancing above as a sub lead in a similar part of the frequency spectrum. I just want to sort of comment that it does take a bit of nuance there. It does take a bit of like acumen there in terms of songwriting to really be able to get those different parts to behave there in a way which isn't overpowering. We've just got the fundamentals adhered to in terms of not having things overcomplicated or too intense in terms of the actual songwriting itself. But yeah, ultimately I think, yeah, instrumentally there's variation between the different tracks there with the 808s and kind of the drum elements, so some of the bass parts being relatively the thing that kind of helps to tie them together. Thematically, the tracks are typically minor oriented there. We're not too heavy on it being like super happy or super sad stuff. It's usually kind of melancholic or bittersweet sounding, which I think, considering the subject matter and the balance we're trying to attribute, with some of the vocal lines being a bit more blunt, makes total sense there. It makes it seem a bit more sort of mature. But there's also an innate catchiness to some of the one-on-one, like there's some catchiness to the vocal lines and the hook lines, like REUP on Love Again there. So there's like a complexity to some of like the extension harmonies and stuff like that, but there's also a relative kind of catchiness and simplicity that's quite sort of like sensible with some of the hook lines. And I just feel like those contrasting kind of approaches work well there. It's enough to get it stuck within a listener's head and enough to get them to take it seriously. So with all those parts well connected, you've effectively just got the studio recording, mixing and mastering. In general, I think the vocals were processed quite well. I think there was only one part in like Where Would I Go where I feel like we could have had a bit less tuning in Natasha Wright's vocal harmonies, because I feel like some of the stepping, like they were a good vocalist, and I feel like they could have just maybe had a little bit less kind of tuning in that part, a little bit less intense with the mix. But aside from that, I think generally the vocals are well presented with a mixture of some of the tuning, more straightforward takes, EQ compression, etc. Some of the filtering to kind of make them a bit more low key, some of the whispering, the producer takes for the most part I think were placed well. And then the guitars, piano, bass, keys, drums, synths, etc. Anything else I've mixed, the different sort of like vocal overdubs and effects takes and stuff like that, bit of vinyl crackle, etc. Like all the different sort of percussive tones and textures there, because the drums had some interesting sounds really quickly. It wasn't just like the cymbals, the kicks and the snares. We also had some kind of like little synthy kind of beeps and stuff like that, which were just a nice sort of like little bit of extra pizzazz there, and amongst what you're already familiar with, sort of just change things just enough to be different. Music's around you in the headphones, some interesting panning decisions with some of the vocal takes, and other parts went backwards and forwards within the stereo field, which is kind of neat. No weird resonances in the frequency spectrum there. Things were nicely sort of niched there. There was dynamic range Some parts had automation of volume as well that kind of went out like that. But the tracks also had side chaining of some of the kick parts and bass parts, etc. So it was nice and loud. Bus compression limiting was handled. No leveling issues, tight mixes. No real applicable constructive critique aside from like the little kind of bits I mentioned there that were more sort of just like subjective things. From a final general listener's perspective, I did enjoy my time with this. I think there was some really good material and I enjoyed it more as I went along there, as I understood the musicians involved a bit better. And I think that's important in an EP. I just feel like if this EP had been like a whole lot of different concepts or themes there that were disconnected, I would have enjoyed them less, but not because the music would be lesser. It's just more that in a bigger form factor like an EP, you've got the real estate to explore a broader concept. So I'm thankful for that. Even though I'm not necessarily sure how I've ended things, I'm still glad I got the chance to hear it. So thank you for watching my review of this EP from an act named 1300 Big Swole titled REUP on Love Again. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show us some love via their various social medias and Spotify page, as well as other digital streaming platforms. So stay cool and stay safe. And please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need to help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I will catch you in the next SB Reacts. Spiderhands out.